Poke the Bear is brought to you by PrizePicks and the GameTime app.
And welcome into Poke the Bear, episode 365, presented by PrizePicks. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. And we're presented by GameTime. Go use that promo code CLNS to get $20 off your first purchase. And of course, we're always presented by CLNS Media. Make sure to go check out Bruins Ringside on YouTube. Subscribe. We're near 10,000 subs. If we could hit 10,000 subs in the next couple weeks, Connor, we're going to have to cook something up. We're going to have to do something big. Like, I don't know what the big thing is, but we're going to have to cook it up. So we got that.
I already talked to Ken. I already talked to Canopy Lake Park. I'm not sure if we're able to film the live show during the Mine of Lost Souls show, but we might be able to finagle. We can get a peacock down here just to be in the background so it's a little bit. We're bringing Canopy Lake Park to the listeners. Like, it'll be us talking like, yeah, Laura probably is better on first power play, and you're gonna hear like in the background as the peacock just is yelling the entire time. So,
or you'll get to hear like the ricketiness of the Boston Cannonball, where it's like,
yes,
like I think
I was trying to see if we could get the peacock and like the old prospector from the Mine of Lost Souls too, like just him, like just like in the background. But no, we couldn't. I don't think. I think we'd probably put the whole ride in disarray if we pluck that guy out of there. So we're working on it. But again, this won't even be a feasible, tangible conversation if we don't get 10K subscribers. So
that's what I mean. Like, you gotta subscribe, and so this happens. Then we're forced to do this, and then we'll deal with that. Lots of other great stuff. Obviously, Patriots Press Pass, Celtics All Access on YouTube as well. And then obviously make sure if you don't like watching us, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts from, Apple, Spotify, Podbean, or wherever it is. I'm Evan Marinofski. That's Conor Ryan. Connor, what is going on?
Evan, I'm doing well. How you doing?
Doing great. It's a stressful time. Red Sox we're recording the same time as we did. Maybe it's good. Tuesday, we recorded Bruins beat like around 3:00, right? 3 hours before first pitch. We're doing the same thing on Wednesday. Hopefully, we called it we called it in Bruins beat. Hopefully, we can do it right here too. Big win for the Red Sox in game 2. Huge win. Bats were flying.
Who could have predicted a 3-home run game for Carlos Narvaez, right? I mean, you saw in game 1, you had Sogard, you had Yoshida. Everyone always believed in him. Comes through clutch. And then what do you know? Game 2, 3 dingers for Carlos Narvaez. You love to see it, right?
After 3 walks. After 3 really good walks in game 1. So hopefully
he's going to have 3 grand slams in game 1 against Toronto. So
it's like the 2021 Red Sox when they couldn't stop hitting grand slams. That was what it was like in game 2. Interesting times with the Red Sox. CLNS, by the way, has been doing post-game shows. So make sure to go check that out on the main CLNS Media YouTube page. They've been doing a good job, at least through one game.
Bobby Manning's all over the place, man. I shout out to Bobby for literally being at every single thing going on in Boston sports.
Bobby has like clones. Bobby's at like a bazillion different things. What is the real Bobby? We don't know. But we are a week away. We're a week away from regular season hockey for the Bruins, which is an exciting time. I am so done with camp and preseason games. I just want these games to matter. And the Bruins play the Caps in a week from today, or at least when we're recording this, a week from today. And kind of looking back with a week left in camp, I'm curious, like, what's been your big surprise? What's been something that came across your radar that you didn't expect?
I will say, Evan, you look ahead a year from now, how thankful we're going to be that pretty much the regular season is going to start at the end of September. Like, we'd already be in the thick of things right now. Next year is only going to be 4 preseason games. So thank God, because I'm in the same boat. I'm ready just for this team to get rolling, for the games to actually matter and kind of work through things as we get to the start of the regular season. Because I think probably my biggest surprise is the lack of clarity right now. Because honestly, I still don't know what to make of this team and where the pieces really fit. And you've had, 2 weeks of training camp. You've had 4 preseason games. Yeah, you're hoping to at least see, a few guys stand out, or you start seeing some cohesion. We mentioned early on during camp, Marco Sturm wanted to get, identify pairs up front of guys that could work together, whether it's, Zaka and Blumel or Middlestad and Arvidsson, right? And you saw kind of the thought process there. And as for a team that has so much in flux, especially with that middle 6 grouping, you saw, I think what their line of thinking was of what they're trying to see, where the chemistry was going to be, what guys fit where. But now you get through a couple of weeks of training camp, a couple of preseason games. It feels like they're kind of still in the same spot. Like you kind of know who the players are going to be. Like out of like those 6 spots in the middle 6, I think it's safe to assume that 4 of them are going to be Zacha, Arvidsson, Middlestat, and probably Janot. But where do they fit? What are the actual lines? Like if you had to tell me right now, like how confident I'd be of like, let's say the second line being Zacha, Middlestat, and Arvidsson, be like 50-50, right? Because we were just talking last week about like maybe they opt for Zacha and Middlestat both centering their own lines, which then the domino effect of what does that mean for Fraser Minton? Like we have all, it's almost like the Bruins are still in like the middle of like those choose your own adventure books, but they can't like, they're still like, they don't know which one to pick yet. It's like, do you go, it's like Goosebumps. Do you go down the cellar and punch the goblin or do you call the police? And they never in that book ever call the police like normal people should. And so like, I feel
it never happened.
Yeah, it's like, no, there's a coven of witches downstairs. Like,
that book would have been 20 pages if that happened.
Yeah, it's like, no, we got a coven of witches downstairs. It's like, we should call the authorities. Like, no, I'm gonna bring a shoe downstairs and try to fight them with a shod foot. It never works that way.
Doesn't, so, never ends well for them.
No. And so I feel like the Bruins are in the same spot. It's like you have like some solutions here, but they don't know what to do yet. And so
Marco Stern's going into the basement with a shoe.
Exactly. It's a very long-winded way to say that. I just feel like the Bruins still have a lot of options in place, but they haven't, I think, made a definitive path forward yet. And it's not saying whichever path they choose, whether it's, let's say it's Zacha and Middlestat on different lines, or you put them on one line together. I don't know for sure what the right option is yet, but I think you'd hope to see them at least not show some conviction, because it feels like they're just kind of sitting on their hands here, but like at least be maybe more definitive right now of what they want to see. Because again, they've got 2 preseason games, but you don't really have a lot of runway before you start getting to the regular season. It just feels like we're kind of waiting for that shoe to drop, whether it's roster cuts, whether it's, guys getting an extended run with a certain line mate or two. Just feels like the whole team's kind of stuck in neutral. And it's like, you can't go fight the witches yourself. Just call the cops.
I like the idea of Sturm running into the basement with
yes.
We're going to fix
28 witches just rolling in with an Adidas sneaker on. No, can't do it.
Can't do it. No, it's impossible. I can't hold the shoe for the whole show. I don't like, it's interesting because maybe everybody's been so good that the level of play is so high. Like, oh my God, there's so many good players here. And I don't think that's been the case. I'm as shocked as you are. And I don't know if shocked is the right word.
Yeah.
I think I'm disappointed. I'm somewhat surprised because I want to
see some clarity, right?
Yes. See some clarity, see some guys playing together a lot. Now, Middlestat was out on Wednesday with a lower body thing that Sturm says is nothing major. So Zacha centered his own line. But even Sturm talked about this at camp on Wednesday of like, we can't, like, I like to have guys be together for a long time. And Zacha's been on the wing, down the middle, on the wing, down the middle. Who is he playing with? I don't know. Sturm had a shoe in his press conference, holding it up.
Ready to go.
We're going in. So I don't like, that's my thing is like, what is it looking like for opening night? Are they going to go the conservative veteran route of Arvidsson with Zacha and Middlestat? Or do you see them go with Zacha and Middlestat centering their own lines? I think like, I feel like Zacha, Middlestat, Arvidsson is a very like relatively high-ish floor, but a very low ceiling. Like Arvidsson has not been super impressive through his games and through camp. And like what, it's fine. You kind of shrug your shoulders, but then this is another thing. The young guys haven't separated themselves enough. I mean, we're 4 games in, we're deep into this thing. And it's like, Minton makes sense. Patra's been okay at times. Blumel is sort of up and down. They have him high in the lineup. Steves, they had him replacing him on line rushes on Wednesday on the second line with Zacha and Hustendine off. Like, it's just a lot of guys, a lot of just guys. And no one separated themselves. And I think that's the thing where it makes it tough for Sturm, where it's like, what are my lines going to be? And that's why I almost wonder, I know that he wants continuity down the middle. I know he wants kind of veteran guys who've been in the NHL for quite a bit playing down the middle. But I do wonder if he sort of just starts the season with the second line of Zaka, Middlestat, and Arvidsson, just to sort of like wait for something to come together on that third line.
Yeah, and I almost feel like where there is so much uncertainty with this group, you do wonder if it is going to be just like a trial by error and you like feeling out process once you get to the regular season. That's not ideal. And as much as we say, like we came in for preseason to be over, what happens if like this same roster was in place next season? We only had 4 preseason games. They'd literally be going into the season being like, I don't know, we'll figure it out as the games go on. So I do think that. Listen, I think everyone wants to have like some like definitiveness with training camp and preseason of an idea of what your team's going to be. And I think everyone expected that this is going to be a group that is going to be a work in progress, right? Whether it's the systems in place, the younger players and what their roles are going to be, all that stuff. Like this is a team that, even though we've talked about like what their ceiling is and could they be a potential wild card team, if they are that, like if they exceed those expectations and they are like a wild card team and hit like the ceiling of what we think they are, I'm not expecting this team to also open up the year like 8-1-1, right? Like I feel like it's going to be like you take the growing pains and you start gelling as like the second half goes on. I think is what we'd imagine would be the scenario if this team is better than we expect. So there are going to be a lot of growing pains along the way, but it does feel like, yeah, maybe is the best bet is just go with a second line where you have at least 3 NHLers and you see kind of how they fit and you adjust from there. And if that means Blumel with Minton and Janot or what have you, Patra, you figure that out as it comes along. But to your point, I think one thing that further kind of complicates matters is there is like some opportunity here for younger players to really seize a spot, to kick the door down and, make it so the Bruins can't send it down to Providence. And there haven't been a lot of guys that have like performed so far during the preseason where you're like, all right, that guy's got a spot locked up. And you see like across the NHL, like a lot of other teams, like Vancouver's got that 2025 first round pick, Coates, whatever his name is, who's like been really good, that now they're having a legitimate argument, kind of like Patra a few years ago of like, is this guy ready? That player on Philly who had that second goal, Rodrigo, the Latvian center, kind of came out of nowhere. And I remember like when he scored that goal, all the Philly beat writers were like, yeah, he's earned a spot. Like you're seeing across the NHL, there are these guys that are either bubble players, fringe guys you didn't know going into the year that are playing so well that it's taking the decision out of the team's hands of like, all right, he's going to be on the NHL roster on October 7th or 8th. And the Bruins have a few guys in the mix, right? Blumel, maybe Minton off of just like him playing a solid two-way game, but no one has kicked the door down yet. And I don't know if that was unrealistic expectations for the Bruins to expect a guy to make a push amongst this group that is still in the lower tier of a prospect pool. But you did just wish you'd see a little bit more tangible production, I think, from guys, especially with all the opportunities out there this camp.
Yeah, I want to get more into that with especially the young guys. But first, this episode is sponsored by PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Red Sox, Yankees, this is as fun as it gets. And I was pumped on Tuesday night because the Red Sox won. But I was also pumped because my PrizePicks hit. I had Alex Bregman more than 0.5 total bases. I had Anthony Volpe more than 0.5 hitter strikeouts. And I had Garrett Crochet more than 7.5 pitcher strikeouts. He soared past that. So I was also a big winner on Tuesday night. PrizePicks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. PrizePicks, they invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. So download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. It's good to be right over at PrizePicks. So the young kids thing, I think it's interesting because like we've talked about Minton. Patra's been sort of wonky at times, fine sometimes, not so great or noticeable other times. Blumel, you have Steves. One guy that we haven't really mentioned in this episode is Fabian Lysell. And, Stern was asked on Wednesday about Fabian Lysell. about what he needs to see more out of him. And he said, I need to see, he says, Lysell feels he's a high offensive end guy. I need to see him at both ends of the ice. And it feels like sort of in keeping with how the Bruins have felt about Lysell for years now, of like the two-way game isn't there. He's playing his own zone isn't there. I don't know. I've said this before. It just doesn't feel like this is the place for him. It doesn't. Whether or not he's good or not to play in the NHL, whoever's fault it is, this just does not feel like the spot.
Yeah, and I think kind of even going off of Sturm's comments on Wednesday, he mentioned like what these younger players have to do is like do something special out on the ice. So it's almost like I do agree that it does feel like the ship has maybe sailed in terms of like the Bruins and their evaluation of Lysell or what they need to see from him. But also, I think one way you can kind of change that approach or narrative or whatever it may be, and maybe this is falling on deaf ears, right? As far as what Lysell can do, considering he's been in this Group B part of the roster for like a week now. But let's say he draws in the lineup on Thursday, like you got to score a goal or do something, set up a guy, right? It's almost like, Matej Blumel, who we've mentioned, like he's getting a lot of run with like the second power play unit. He's playing in the top six. Has it been like a unreal preseason run for him? No, right? Like he scores, like he's had some times where it's tough to notice him. Like I don't think he was all that great on Monday against Philly. It was a touch slow, I thought, with like moving the puck, kind of processing at NHL speed, which to be expected, right? But he's not a perfect guy that he's got, 3 goals in 3 preseason games. It looks like he's ready to be a 20-goal player in the NHL. But I think the Bruins, kind of what we've talked about, how they evaluate him, for a team that desperately needs scoring and skill, you're seeing it on display with Blumel. You're seeing the upside. You're seeing him play to his strengths. And I think the Bruins are like, all right, keep on doing that. We'll work with you on the rest of your game, but keep on doing what you're good at, and we will carve out an opportunity for you. I think the same thing with Lysell, and like regardless of how they view his skill set or his progression or his two-way game, for a team that needs scoring help, if he goes out there on Thursday against the Capitals, right? I think it's who they're playing, and he scores 2 goals, and it looks like a beast out there, sets up someone on a 2-on-1. Yeah, maybe he gets another look on Saturday, right? Like, I think it's all about, baby steps for a guy like Lysell at this point of his development and this point of the preseason, that play to your strengths, make something happen, and maybe they reevaluate things, because you just need to see some sort of flash with a guy like that, especially where you probably got roster cuts coming down the line. So very curious to see if Lysell draws into the lineup on Thursday, and if so, got to do something. And I feel like it's got to be in the offensive side of things. Yeah, it'd be great if he has a back check or something that probably earns you brownie points. If it's NHL, be a player. The back checking always helps you. You can score 5 goals, but you miss an assignment, you get sent to the OHL. But I do think that Lysell needs to pot a goal or 2 here to maybe change some of that sentiment about him.
I always love in NHL Be a Pro when the coach, like it'll be a cutscene and the coach comes down off his perch behind the bench to like the front just to talk to you. When have you ever seen a coach do that,
Yes.
let alone regularly? I always find that hilarious. I don't know if they do it in 26, but I know 25 and before that was what they did. I agree with you. Lysell needs to produce. I mean, again, 12 games last year, 3 points in Boston, 34 points in 52 AHL games, 50 points in 56 the year before, 37 in 54 games the year before that. Like, he hasn't beaten the door down with offensive production. There was an interesting play on in Monday's game. David Pastrnak is skating into the offensive zone, or he's towards the offensive zone, and it's a 1-on-4, and he can see it. Like, you're not getting through that. Curls around, backhand dumps it into the other corner. Forward goes right in and gets it. Right? That's an example, I think, what they want to show Lysell of, hey, you don't need to skate through everybody. You can manage the game. You can make it easier. And I think Lysell at times struggles with that, like, make the smart play here, make the more efficient play. And again, the production hasn't been there. So it's like, yeah, this guy has great skill, should be scoring. When they drafted him, high offensive upside. You just haven't seen it. You haven't seen it in the last bunch of preseasons, including this one. I think that's one of the things that's so frustrating is like, oh, the tools are there. Like he's a good skater, good hands, like all those things. It's just that next thing. And they haven't seen it. They have not seen it because, again, in Group B on Wednesday, he seems disappointed by it. But that's what they have. And I think to your point, Connor, like if he could start producing every time, if every game he was a threat for a point, he'd be in the lineup. Like you'd kill for it. They don't have anybody outside of David Pastrnak like that. So again, like I think they would rather obviously have him in the lineup. Before we get into some more surprises, guess who's back? Game Time is back, and they couldn't have come back at a better time. Football season is back, and it's one of those fun times of the year. Tailgates, hyped up crowds, and incredible finishes. The downside, though, can often be the process of getting tickets, queues, annoying login screens, and prices jumping at checkout. The GameTime app gives the advantage back to fans. The hack for unlocking amazing tickets and experiences in a few taps. It's incredibly easy to use, and the GameTime guarantee means you can trust to get 100% authentic tickets on time and at the best price. Plus, fees are always included, so what you see is what you pay. This weekend, Bruins host the Rangers in preseason action, and you can get in for as low as $40. So take the guesswork out of buying football or any sport tickets with GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download the GameTime app today. Download it today. In terms of other surprises, I mean, again, clarity in the middle six is a problem.
It's pretty dour episode so far. The vibes are taking a little bit of a hit.
I'm gonna bring the vibes up a little bit. I'm gonna pump it up a little bit. This is minor. This is not a huge thing. A lot of battles, a lot of battle drills in this training camp. And it's funny because on Wednesday, Lowry was going against Jano in a certain one-on-one drill. And I think one of the positives, and I'm not saying that I'm not justifying the signing or the signings of all these vets, but one of the positives is like a guy like Lowry who has, the height and the size, but needs to improve defensively, needs to improve with physicality and those types of things. To get to go up against a guy like Tanner Jano or Mikey Acimont or Sean Corrali is a good thing for a kid like him. And I think is going to be beneficial. Does that mean he's going to be a plus 20 this year? No, it doesn't. But if we're looking for minor positive things, I think one of the positive surprise is, not that they're doing battle drills, but that like some of these vets will have a good impact on young guys. I think the same can be said for Matt Poitras as well.
Yeah, and I always think like even going off of that, the way that the camp has been run so far, and I think what Marco Sturman and his coaching staff have been doing has been encouraging. And maybe it's more of like the personnel issue, right? Or the fact that I think it is going to be an ongoing process, but I do at least feel like the Bruins have a pretty clear vision of one, like what they want to do, what they need to do, even if like, again, I don't think it's remotely going to be things are going to be set in stone or the power play is going to be humming on October 8th, right? Like it does feel like at least they have a pretty good plan of what they're trying to get out of this group, what they're trying to instill. And I think you see it with, bringing in the guys like Jano and Acimont and those types of players, Corrali by that same kind of player profile, but like just the way they've been running camp as far as like a lot of skating drills, a lot of conditioning work, a lot of, board work, board battles, a lot of emphasis on the power play, working on not just, O-zone work, but like coming up the ice as a unit, which I think was something that plagued them. Like, I'm not saying that, and maybe this is just looking at it through the rose, colored lenses, but it does feel like even if this team has a lot of work to do, a lot of question marks, a lot of uncertainty, and maybe that's more, again, of just a byproduct of the roster as opposed to what Sturman and staff are doing. It does feel like they're at least trying to put in the work now to get something out of this group. Maybe it's something that leads to better results in January onward. Maybe it leads to better results next season. But it's at least encouraging that it feels like there's more of a purpose to this camp as opposed to last year where it just feels like it was a disaster. So, and I think like bringing in those guys like Jano and Corrali, and you got a very valid argument of like bringing in those guys, how much they move the needle in terms of production on the ice, the contracts, all that stuff. But you're at least seeing, I think, purpose as far as how the Bruins want to, what they want the identity of this team to be and what they're trying to get out of this group during camp, which I at least appreciate that part of like, it feels like it's pretty transparent and clear what they're focusing in on.
And it's been clear since day one. They're going to grind you down. Like, that's the thing. They're a defensive team who's going to grind out goals in the offensive zone. That's what they're going to be. And I think when you look, like, I assume Next week, we're going to do like an expectations or a predictions episode or whatever we do. And one of mine is going to be, they're probably going to start slow. Your offense is probably mainly going to come from your first line for the first couple weeks, especially as that middle six takes time to get going. But over the course of the season, I think you're going to see improvement. Be it, be more physical, better defensively, better in net. Some other guys maybe popping in the top 9. So I think there is that element of it, but it's going to take time. It's going to take time. Mason Lohrei is not going to be putting guys through the glass on night 1. Who knows? Maybe he will. Maybe he will. But then he'll try to use the glass to play with, like the broken stick.
Yeah.
Fun reminder, make sure to subscribe to Bruins Ringside on YouTube. Again, 10K subscribers would be awesome. Podcasts
Free
all the time.
Books for all.
Yeah, there it is. That's a great idea. Or we'll do a reading of Goosebumps. We'll do like an epic.
We'll do like a choose your own adventure, but we'll have like the group chat decide which page we turn to. All the comments will be like, "This sucks." Like, talk more about the Bruins. I hate this.
Shut up, please. Shut up. Like, no, we gotta go. This is R.L. Stein, dude. You're gonna disrespect R.L. Stein like that?
One person jumping in and be like, they fucked up the 2015 draft. I'm like, that's not what we're doing right now.
Talk about that's a Goosebumps book in and of its own.
It is, yes.
Podcasts all the time. Make sure to subscribe there, and then
do you go down? Do you call the authorities, or do you draft? Jacob Zaboral with the 13th
Zach Senyshyn.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm drafting Jakob Zaboral. No cops here. Don Sweeney does not calling the cops. That is hilarious. It's like the Matthew McConaughey in what's the movie?
The Lincoln Lawyer.
No, not the Lincoln Lawyer.
Tropic Thunder.
No, the big one.
Failure to Launch.
With Christopher Nolan.
Interstellar.
Interstellar. And he's like looking at his old self. He's like, no.
Yes.
Oh, it's like, call the police, Don. Call the police.
Yes.
Don Sweeney, please call the cops.
This is the Goosebumps episode.
Subscribe to CLNS. That's all I gotta say. I'm not gonna try to keep doing that one. Getting derailed. What else is there? Surprises. No drama. No drama this year. Not that we expected there to be drama, but there was quite a lot of drama last year. I'll give him credit. Drama free. A little bit of a surprise after last year. I think Sturm's run a pretty tight ship, as you said. And I think that's a good thing. I don't think that's bad.
I do think one thing that is an encouraging surprise, I don't know if surprise is the right word, but it's good to see, is that I think Hampus Lindholm, I guess both Lindholms, but especially Hampus Lindholm has looked awesome. I thought his 2 preseason games looked like he hasn't lost a step. And I think you just see, like, when he's out there, how much, even if it's not like he's a guy that's going to be a 50-point defenseman, how much he just impacts the game in all 3 areas, whether it's just, playing heavy minutes, recovering pucks, getting it out of the D zone with the first pass, or just taking the puck himself, getting through the neutral zone, clean entries, activating when needed. Like, he had a couple of really good plays in transition where he was jumping up into the play. He's a guy that, like, even if it doesn't lead to like a goal or something, like the quality chances he generates, the headaches that he eliminates in the D zone, it makes life easier for guys like Jeremy Swayman or even like his D partner. He just steadies so much of the game when he's out there. And that was a big question mark, like coming off of a fractured kneecap. That's an injury that invites a lot of risk for, recurring injuries, or you come back and not like it's like a Achilles injury, but you run the risk of like, all right, maybe he's back, but how much of his game has taken a hit, right? And again, it's the preseason. You'll see how he is once the regular season grind gets started, but I think he's looked awesome so far. And again, as we've talked about on multiple occasions about this team and how they can exceed expectations, a lot of it comes to the defense tightening up. And I think you've seen both him and McAvoy, the way they've played so far. You can see that vision playing out, right? Like, it's not like we're asking that you need both McAvoy and Lindholm to be top 5 Norris guys for them to have any shot of making the playoffs. They play their game and they're healthy and they're contributing like we've seen them do in the past. The defense is going to be much better than they were last year. So I think that's encouraging to see.
I mean, what an upgrade you would get. I mean, they would be like, we've talked about the things they need to go right for them to be even in remote contention, just being better defensively. He adds so much. I think you look at like the downfall of the last couple months of last season, where it's like you've got Zadorov out there in big minutes and low Ryan Peak. And it's like, that's because, McAvoy was down, but Lindholm was down as well. And I don't think they're going to be playing together. At least it doesn't seem like that through camp so far. So you're going to have two, Hampus Lindholm will be a number one defenseman on a lot of teams. So you have two number one guys on different pairings eating up a lot of minutes. I mean, again, if Charlie McAvoy and Hampus Lindholm are on the ice for 40 of the 60 minutes, sometimes even more, like that is a huge boost, not just to your power play, but your penalty kill. 5-on-5, as you said, the transition game looked really strong on Monday. Lindholm adds so much, and again, takes away tougher minutes for a guy like Mason Lohrei, or who maybe is probably on that top unit, so he takes away tougher minutes for a guy like Zadorov as well. So I think Hampus Lindholm being up to speed. That was something I was a little bit worried about coming in. The fact that he's been okay, I think is definitely a bright spot. Any other big surprises? I mean, again, I think one of the surprises like that we would love to be able to talk about is like young player X is like nasty. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's what you hope for, right? But
it hasn't happened. So I think we've kind of hit on
Mikey
everything.
Eyssimont looks good. I do think they're gonna have I actually do think they're gonna have a pretty good fourth line. That's not get the duck boats ready, but I do think they've got a lot of guys in the fourth line, and I also think they've got a lot of guys that probably aren't gonna make the team, but are waiting in the wings that if like called up, they're gonna I think have pretty good depth there. I think like the depth has been good. It's just who are the guys in the middle six that are raised the questions. I like the fourth line guys. I think Jordan Harris has been really good as a 7th D.
Yep.
You like some of the ancillary pieces, just who are the guys that are going to be really driving play, and you're waiting for them to kind of step up. And that's an ongoing process with regular season starting a week from now.
I think the lack of true talent is showing.
Yeah.
You have depth, but do you have game-breaking, play-driving talent? You really don't. And I think you're starting to see that now. Connor, what can the people look forward to from you over at the Globe and Boston.com?
Yeah, you can read my stuff over the Globe and Boston.com. We've covered every step of the way this Bruins season with recaps, features, columns, analysis, all that good stuff. If you want to follow me on Twitter, X, whatever it's called these days, you can at Conor Ryan _93.
Go do all that. That's Conor Ryan. I'm Evan Marinofski. Poke the Bear listeners. Have a great rest of your week.